Did the title of today's podcast capture your attention? The Dead Butt Society? I hope so, because it's a topic important enough for us to do a deep dive together. We will talk about the latest syndrome known as the dead butt, and we'll find out if we are card-carrying members of the society or not. Hopefully, we are not. This is the Wishing You Well podcast, a weekly dose of wellness, information, and inspiration. And I am your host, Maria Patrick. I'm a certified health coach and a Qigong teacher. And here we are again on our journey to living healthier, happier, longer, stronger, and better lives. One of the ways that we can do this is to literally get up off of our butts. Dead butt syndrome was in the news this past week. It is officially and formally known in the medical community as gluteal amnesia. The clinical term is Gluteus Medius tendinopathy. Are you wondering what this is exactly? It's when the gluteus medius, which is one of the three main muscles in your butt, becomes weakened. How does this happen? Well, it makes sense. It typically is a result of periods of prolonged inactivity, like sitting behind a desk all day, which we know can have serious health consequences. If you spend hours a day sitting and not getting up frequently to take breaks, to take a walk, move around, even just to get up and stand, you may be a member of the Dead Butt Society, and you may have experienced this problem, which is commonly known, as I said, as dead butt syndrome. So as you might expect from the name, the condition results when your gluteal muscles essentially go into hibernation. And like having amnesia of the brain, your muscles forget their main purpose, which is to support your pelvis and keep your body in proper alignment. We need to move more and sit less. The thing that everyone is saying these days, it's become a commonplace phrase to hear, is that sitting is the new smoking, which means that when we sit too long, we can have very consequential negative impact on our health and well-being, both in the near term and the long term. When you move more and sit less, you can not only help prevent this dead butt syndrome, but you can also help to treat it. And even though the name makes it sound like it's a joke, dead butt syndrome can lead to other problems if we don't change our wicked ways and start to take it seriously. So if you've been sitting for a while, and when you go to stand up, your glutes, your gluteal muscles in your buttocks feel numb or even a little sore, you might have a mild case. And the immediate remedy to that, short-term and immediate, quickly can be done, is to walk around, do some mild stretching, and you can take your gluteus muscles out of amnesia, bring them back to life fairly quickly. But people do end up having more serious cases of this, and the symptoms can range from being extremely stiff, something that you can't walk off or stretch to correct, and also having pain that can radiate to other parts of your body. And what could end up happening is that you could end up having pain in your lower back, your knees, one or both of your hips. You may find the pain even shooting down your leg, similar to the way sciatica problems feel. Every week, we talk about the things that we need to do to live stronger and longer. And it's important to know that when you lose strength in your glutes and when your hip flexors get tight or dead, like your dead butt syndrome, that this can cause serious problems in other parts of your body. And I spent this past summer, working with a few people who were committed to strengthening their knees. And in these cases, the first thing that we began with was strengthening the glute muscles. it's really important, it's imperative really for us to make these connections between the different parts of our body and the roles that the muscles can play on the health and strength of your entire body. When you have dead butt syndrome, it can even lead to inflammation of your hip bursa. Your hip bursa is the sac that's filled with fluid that helps when your hip joint is moving to ease or really lubricate that movement. You could end up with something that members of my family have had over the years, which is bursitis, which is when your hip bursa becomes inflamed, and you end up with not only pain in that area but a lot of swelling too. If you have pain in your lower legs, and if you begin to start having problems with your balance becomes off, you have problems with your gait is not what it used to, these are problems that could be triggered by dead butt syndrome. So what happens? What do we usually do when we have these kind of problems? We overcompensate. We end up, instead of correcting the problem, getting to the root, the source of the problem, we overcompensate. So when we have hip pain or back pain, we end up changing our normal stride instead of fixing what caused the stride to be out of whack in the first place. When you do that, you end up putting strain on other parts of your body, your ankles, your knees, your feet. They're not used to your change in stride, and that soreness that starts in the butt ends up emerging elsewhere in the body. So what can you do? You need to, number one, first and foremost, address your sedentary lifestyle. I recently went to the eye doctor, and I needed to be reminded that when you're working on a screen for long periods of time without a break, that you're going to end up either causing yourself to have eye problems or contributing to one that you already have. In my case, it's the dry eye syndrome. And it's a simple reminder that I needed to hear. And I think the same concept applies to dead butt syndrome. When it comes to working on screens, we're supposed to take breaks every 20 minutes for 20 seconds, blink at least 20 times, and look 20 feet away. The same concept of taking the breaks every 20 or 30 or 40 minutes from being seated can help address the problems that begin in the glutes and extend to the hip flexors, the pelvis, your lower back, your thighs, and down to your knees, your ankles, and your feet. Just getting up and stretching, that's the bare minimum. If you can take a brisk walk, even one just around your office space, make it your opportunity to go refill your water bottle or go get your mid-morning snack. This is a way for you to deal right at point of contact with dead butt syndrome. And that way your hip flexors won't have the opportunity to tighten up. Your gluteal muscles will give you'll give them an opportunity to lengthen. And therefore you're going to not tighten up the glutes and cause this amnesia of the muscles and lead to inflammation of the gluteal medius tendons. The gluteal medius is actually one of the smaller muscles located in the buttocks. And those tendons that support the gluteal medius muscle are very sensitive and become very vulnerable to injury, which is why this is no laughing matter and something that we should pay attention to and take the time to address. So diagnosing problems such as this, we end up self-diagnosing ourselves on a lot of things, and that's at least the first step, because that's what'll get you to the doctor. But if this is something that's really serious, it's ongoing, the simple stretches and exercise breaks are not helping your symptoms, then you're going to want to see your doctor. You may even want to see an orthopedist or someone who specializes in sports medicine, because you want them to professionally evaluate what you're going through, listen to your symptoms, and help get you started on whatever that treatment plan will be. Physical therapy is always a good idea when you're experiencing areas of pain and stiffness in your body. If you feel that you have inflammation, Again, there's certain things that just can't be self-diagnosed, that if it's very serious, you may even need to have an MRI or an X-ray, and any of these types of imaging exams cannot be done without first seeing your doctor and or your physical therapist. So depending upon how far your symptom has progressed, you're going to want to help yourself. And if you are experiencing pain, I think a wonderful protocol, it's simple, it's actually easy to remember. It's the rest, ice, compression, elevation protocol, which is commonly known as RICE. Rest is giving yourself a break and not pushing beyond what feels comfortable for you when you're in pain. Ice will help reduce the pain and the swelling. So you're going to want to get a cold compress or an ice pack on the area. And while it may feel very uncomfortable and even embarrassing to apply ice compress to your buttocks, if you have severe pain in that area, it's a good place to start. Compression is when you wrap the area, which I think is easier to do for elbows and knees. And if you feel that compression is the only way to help you, then you might want to see a doctor once again. And elevation is, even if you are seated, you want to move your legs. You want to keep your legs up and supported and moving. And that way you can keep the blood circulating, the blood and the oxygen flowing to this area, which is always going to help an area that's had some type of injury, strain, or stress. The last resort, of course, would be, in my personal opinion, open up the medicine cabinet and taking some drugs, whether you do over the counter or something's prescribed by your doctor, anti-inflammatories and things like acetaminophen, aspirin, ibuprofen, Advil, Motrin, Tylenol are the common names that we go by, can certainly help improve if you have these serious symptoms of dead butt syndrome. So the simple way to help yourself is to break up the long periods of sitting by getting up and walking. It can be particularly helpful to move in both a forward and a backwards direction. I think I mentioned this in a previous podcast, where other countries do a much better job of walking backwards every day than we do. It's a very Nordic thing to do. It's even known as Nordic walking. And when you walk backwards, you help to strengthen your knees. And when your knees are stronger, then the muscles surrounding the knees will be stronger. To regularly stimulate the blood flow to the tight areas of the body, specifically in this case to revive your butt from the dead butt syndrome, is to move and activate those muscles and tendons. And there are exercises that you can do. You can stand and hold on to something. A kitchen or a bathroom counter is usually helpful, or even the back of a chair that's kind of on the higher side. Stand with your feet flat on the ground, about hip or shoulder width apart, and one at a time, lift up 1 foot at a time and kick backwards slowly. And if you're in a lot of pain, just slightly. If you can make a 90-degree bend with your knee, that would be ideal. You want to make sure that everything else is nice and tall spine, body in alignment, head over heart, heart over hips, and gently tighten by squeezing and then relax by releasing your glute muscles. So while you're exercising your glute muscles, you're also bending and straightening that knee. And by doing this, this particular exercise, and this is just one of many, you're going to work your glute muscles, your quadriceps, your abdominal muscles, your calves, and your hamstrings. The better you get at this, you might even be able to do this without holding on to something and move your arms at the same time, even holding some small, light handheld weights. And it then becomes a full body exercise, a full body flow of energy, which is going to have so many health benefits for you. You're getting your core muscles moving. You're getting your glute muscles awakened out of their slumber, out of their amnesia, and you're strengthening the other muscles that become weakened by dead butt syndrome. So what I hope that this tells us is that if we keep a few key things in mind and we remind ourselves throughout the day to get up and move, and keeping in mind that by doing these small breaks, it's going to help you not only in the short term, but the long term, because then you're going to be able to do your more strenuous activities, do your regular workout, whether that's a walk or on your treadmill or lifting weights or swimming, or in my case, rebounding, whatever it is that is your go-to exercise every day, you'll be able to do it and do it longer because you're not going to have dead butt syndrome. Your pain will go down, your performance will improve, and your life will feel better because you're going to be able to do the things that you want and need to do in your everyday life. We have to remember that the glutes are among the most powerful muscles in our body, and they are responsible for the movement of our hips and our thighs. And we need to be able to move our hips and our thighs whether we are walking forwards or backwards, whether we're going up or downstairs, whether we're walking, running, riding our bicycle, swimming, anything that you're doing relies so heavily on the glutes, which is why we don't want to give them a chance to go dormant, to have amnesia, to sleep on us. We want to get the glutes up and moving, strengthening these areas, telling our glutes to not be lazy, to get up and do what they need to do for you. So at the very least, stand up, squeeze your glutes, take some forward bends and backward bends, and then sit back down. At least you're giving your glutes to have tension and tightness and then relax, which is a wonderful way, an easy way, a simple way, a quick way to work those muscles. Apply this principle, the same one that I was just recently reminded of by my eye doctor. Apply that same principle to your lower body, taking breaks, reminding yourself whether you have to set a timer on your phone or your watch to do so, and getting up, keeping it moving, and you will no longer be a member of the Dead Butt Society. I so appreciate you joining me today. I hope that as we explore these topics together, that you find it helpful, that the stories that we talk about every week serve as a reminder to us and an inspiration to us so that we can feel better, live happier and healthier, and live longer lives. Get up and move, and as you're doing so, remember that I am here wishing you well.